Hello there guys, Daniel Childs back here again for my team selector ahead of the game against Arsenal on Sunday at Stamford Bridge. It's a massive Premier League game. It's a massive test for Graham Potter and his players. Are Chelsea ready for this test? I can already imagine a lot of comments saying no, given our recent form, particularly in the Premier League. Our last league win coming against Aston Villa, which was almost a month ago now. There's been so many games, and unfortunately in the Premier League it has not been that great. So Potter needs to win quickly. But he also just needs to kind of stabilise things, I think, until we get to that World Cup break. And that may mean 2 draws. That's probably not going to make people very satisfied. But given the quality of opposition, you know, Chelsea need to be solid, focused, and hopefully can rise to the occasion. Because we do need a big win against a big opponent. And that's something we have not had so far this season. We were so close to beating Spurs, did not happen. And in similar fashion, we couldn't beat Man United and get that over the line. This would be massive, and it's easy to kind of get sunken into a lot of negativity, as I think a lot of people have. If Chelsea were to put in a brilliant performance on Sunday afternoon, I just think it would lift the spirits, particularly going into what is going to be a really challenging week. We've got Man City in the League Cup. Sure, it's probably going to be both teams are going to rotate. I assume, we assumed that with Potter in the last game, and he proved us wrong. We may be proven wrong again in the League Cup. And then, of course, the final game against Newcastle, a very confident Newcastle side who obviously are above Chelsea in the league at the moment. So Chelsea need to make up that gap. Not only that gap, but the 10-point gap to Arsenal, and it kind of shows the difference in quality so far from both teams. In today's team selector, obviously going to look at Arsenal, going to look at the Chelsea team news, and then my predicted lineup for the Blues on Sunday. Before we do get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you don't miss any of the content on the channel. Got my collab with Harry Simu going up on the channel tomorrow, so please check that out. And then obviously my review of the game on Sunday. And even though we are getting into the World Cup, there's still going to be a lot of content. I think a lot of collabs coming up during the World Cup, where I'll probably get some great Chelsea guests on. And we'll have sort of long-form conversations to speak about the season and Chelsea issues. So make sure you don't miss any of the content, all of that good stuff. Hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and please hit that like button because it helps new people find the channel as well. But let's look at Arsenal. I mean, they have been in brilliant form this year. And to be fair, their record at Stamford Bridge over the last 2 seasons has improved dramatically, because they went, I think, almost a decade without winning at Stamford Bridge, but they've won the last 2. That 4-2 win back in April was a real mess for Chelsea. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out, because I think the dynamic between both clubs is a lot different now. You know, I think Chelsea could be accused of a bit of complacency against Arsenal, given sort of us being favourites in previous games. Now that's quite clearly not the case. I think some people are going to be edging towards Arsenal for very obvious reasons. But it still is Chelsea, it still is Stamford Bridge. Hopefully that counts for something. But Arsenal, as you can see here, in the last 5, it hasn't been as perfect. Their one loss in the last 5 coming against PSV in the Europa League. But in the Premier League, they really have been pretty much faultless. That draw against Southampton, the only other game they did not win was a defeat away at Man United, but they played very well in that game too. Near the top of the league. That is the lineup against Zurich, which I assume is going to be quite different to the one we see on Sunday, just simply because there are some big players who did not start that game. Arteta obviously rotating the team a bit. Saliba, Tomiyasu, Thomas Partey, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, Martinelli. I suspect that, of course, Gabriel Jesus will likely keep his spot in the team, and Gabriel too. So we'll see how the team lines up on Sunday, but I'm pretty much sure it won't exactly be that starting lineup, but they have pretty much stuck with the 4-3-3 that has worked out for them. Their top goal scorer so far this season, there's 3 on 5 currently, which is Gabriel Jesus, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. And Mikel Arteta has proven people wrong. He really has. I think there was a lot of scrutiny on him last season, even before then. He's been through some really bad spells at Arsenal, and I have to say, I think the majority of clubs probably would have sacked him. That one during, I think, was it December 2020, when they were like a couple points off the relegation zone. Chelsea obviously would have sacked, I think, him at that point if he was at the club. But he's got the patience, and it's working out for them now. It really is. They look like a well-oiled machine. He's got out players that he feels don't suit his methods, one of those being Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who obviously is likely to start for Chelsea on Sunday, and others too. And he really has shaped that squad. There's a lot of talented young players there, and they really are riding a wave at the moment. Like, particularly at home, they have great form, and it just seems like, especially Gabriel Jesus has really helped to take that attack up to another level. He isn't a ruthless finisher, but he still is contributing, particularly in the creative aspect. And Chelsea were linked to him over the summer, and if you remember, I was quite sort of positive about that potential signing. It did not happen, which is a bit of a shame because it would have been nice to have him, because I just think tactically he offers so much off the ball as well, when he's just so used to playing in a system that has a lot of the ball, wants to press, fluid as well, movement. These are all kind of cliched thing to say about modern teams now, but it's so true, and it clearly works for Mikel Arteta, and he's settled into kind of that more present role at Arsenal very easily compared to what he had at Man City, where he had to be more of a rotational player at times. I think the big threat for me, or the big one that's kind of jumping out, is Gabriel Martinelli. He has really improved this season, taking his game up to another level. We're a bit like some Chelsea kind of wide attackers, where the likes of maybe Christian Pulisic and others, where you kind of feel like, can they reach that next level and start to produce on a consistent basis? Martinelli has absolutely been doing that this season. He's adding a goal threat. There's a real sense that he is taking on his opposing fullback or his opposing defenders with kind of no respect, which is what you want to see from wide players, but hopefully not too much on Sunday. And how Graham Potter's going to counteract Martinelli on that left side of Arsenal's attack is going to be big. I also think that Granit Xhaka is another player to note, and it kind of reflects on Arteta's good coaching, because Xhaka is one player that's been heavily criticised, who has divided opinion not only in sort of football circles, but I think a lot of Arsenal fans probably would have sold Xhaka, and I think a lot of people expected him to leave. He has been moved into an advanced role now in that central midfield, and he is constantly in the final third, and I think that Arteta has kind of realised that he's not a defensive midfielder, he's not a holding man, he's not someone that's going to kind of anchor the midfield. He is someone that is better if he is getting involved in the final third, and he's contributing to goals. And we've always known that Xhaka, particularly from distance, can have quite a lethal shot. I believe scored a free kick against Chelsea once, so he's obviously a threat. And defensively, Ben White becoming a right back is a bit of a surprise, but he's done well there. Saliba has obviously been a massive addition, returning from loan, and that sort of development time he got in Liga looks like a really smart move from Arsenal. So all round, I mean, Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, there's so many obviously positive things about Arsenal this season, unfortunately to say, and there are many threats for Chelsea to counteract, because even when some players haven't been at their best this season, you feel like there are others stepping up, and even when they've struggled in games, I think the Liverpool one is probably the best example. They're able to come through those difficulties, and that will obviously give them a lot of confidence coming to Stamford Bridge, a place where they won last season. I think the big thing for me is knowing that Arsenal start games fast, and this is something that maybe they're going to struggle with as the season goes on, with not massive depth. I saw it against Southampton. They created a lot of opportunities in that game, but only took one. And then as the game dragged on, they started to tire a bit. And I just wonder if that is something that, if Chelsea can get through the first 20 to 30 minutes, I mean, it's a game away from home, but it doesn't really look to me like Arteta is caring too much about, sort of home and away. They want to go and impose their game on everyone at the moment. If you can get through those periods, there are opportunities to get round Arsenal. There absolutely is, and with the quality players we have, we should be creating opportunities. Can Mason Mount find pockets of space? Can Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang pop up inside the box at a really crucial time? Let's move on to Chelsea now. So Graham Potter in his press conference, obviously Ben Chilwell's going to get a scan. We'll see how the severity of that injury, how serious it is. He's obviously out of the game. Kepa is out of the game as well, and Carney Chukwuemeka has apparently a hamstring problem. We're not sure if he's going to be involved or not. But other than that, it's a curious one, because he started such a strong lineup and he moved to this 4-3-3, as you can see on screen. Now, this was the lineup against Zagreb. Mendy in goal, Cesar Azpilicueta, Chalobah, Koulibaly and Chilwell, the back four, a midfield three of Jorginho, Zakaria and Mount, and then a front three, Aubameyang off the left, Kai Havertz as a 9, and then Raheem Sterling off the right. And you just wonder if that is in preparation for this game, because he kind of got it wrong against Man United. Chelsea were swamped in midfield in that first half. We were outrun, and he obviously had to make the change. He brought Mateo Kovacic back on, and Chelsea moved to a 4-3-3, and obviously we got more control in that game. Obviously Arsenal are a better side, I think, at the moment than Man United. But I just wonder if he's going to make the same mistake again, and he thinks to himself, the balancing act, do I add an extra centre-back and make it a back three, or do I add an extra midfielder? You can do both, and as you can see on screen now, if you are going to move, say, to a 3-5-2 potentially, which could work for Chelsea. Absolutely could. Mendy, Koulibaly, Silva, Chalobah, that would be my back three. Motko Correa, rather than being a left centre back, has moved forward to his more natural left wing back position. Jorginho, Mount and Zakaria as a midfield three. I mean, does Zakaria keep his place? That's a massive question. But he was really impressive. I do think Kovacic probably comes back into the team, because he didn't play on in midweek, and I think that naturally a game of high energy, and you need a lot of legs to kind of counteract the movement of Arsenal. Kovacic always feels like a very obvious option, particularly when we don't have N'Golo Kante. But Zakaria offered things, or showed glimpses of things that Chelsea's midfield have lacked. It's just whether, given the lack of game time, does he go straight into another intense game against Arsenal? I'm not entirely sure. So maybe one of Zakaria and Kovacic in that left central midfield role, and then you have a front two, and whether it's Havertz, Sterling, Pulisic, Sterling, Aubameyang, Havertz, we will see. He's like the two up front, or sort of split striker, and getting more bodies forward. We will see if that works. If you want to have kind of a balance, I mean, if you're going to play a 4-3-3, it's a massive risk, because as much as I like seeing that it gets sort of our wide players into more natural attacking positions, and we get higher up the pitch, and you can get those eights into the box, and it's a more progressive system, and the players look confident the other night, there obviously is that balance issue with Jorginho. If he gets overrun in midfield, the gap between the centre-backs and central midfield, particularly on the right side with no Reece James, Cesar Azpilicueta, who really needs protection if you're playing him as a lone right-back. So that's really difficult. And if you're playing a back three, who plays as right wing-back? Do you put Cesar Azpilicueta there, potentially against Gabriel Martinelli? Do you shift Ruben Loftus-Cheek into that right wing-back role? I'd be absolutely stunned if he does the Pulisic Sterling experiment again, because he kind of admitted that had gone obviously horrendously wrong against Brighton. I just can't see him doing that again. It's just quite curious to me whether that 4-3-3 was in preparation for this game. We will find out obviously before kickoff on Sunday. That is my team. I think with Chelsea, the performance against Man United just wasn't very encouraging. It wasn't an entertaining game. I sort of blame Chelsea-Man United games just for that now. It just seems destined that we're just going to have crap games against them. Chelsea-Arsenal, they have been more frantic in recent times, and there obviously is going to be a lot of attacking players on the pitch. My hope is that Chelsea are able to sort of ride the waves that come through Arsenal, because they're a very confident side at the moment, and they're going to want to come to the bridge, not only impose themselves, but maybe come with a little bit, knowing that it's not a must-win game for them, given that gap and comfort they have this season, and sort of the confidence in what they're doing. Chelsea, it's kind of the opposite. It's not like we're not showing anything good. It's just that stability really isn't there in terms of what we're doing on a weekly basis, and you're kind of looking at certain players to pop up, and it's not consistent under Graham Potter so far. But my hope is the second half, maybe of that Man United performance, some of the good things we've seen of creating good opportunities, and the likes of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, if they start, can be ruthless in front of goal. Raheem Sterling got back into goal-scoring ways against Zagreb. I actually think one player I want to mention, who I've criticised a lot on the channel but deserves praise for recent performances, is Kai Havertz. I think he's looking sharp again. He's offering just more than just scoring goals, which is obviously very important, but I think his all-round play is looking a little bit more creative now and instinctive, which is what I like. So even if he's playing as a false nine, or maybe he's playing off the right, I would be interested to see how he's feels in on Sunday, because I would like to see him start in some capacity, because I think he's in decent form at the moment. That is my team selection for the game on Sunday. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.